Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Calderon. I'm the CEO of Ketchapp. Thanks for having me here at Postback. And today, I'm going to talk about kind of like how we manage our waterfall and our philosophy on monetization, and how we do it with 6 people. But before I do, I'll give you a little bit more info about Ketchapp. So we're a 6-person team. We've been making games since 2014. Some of them you may have heard of, such as 2048 or Stack. The company was founded by Antoine and Michelle Marcos. We have over 500 million downloads, over 70 games released, and we work with over 30 developers in the Ketchapp family. Just a quick league table just to show you how powerful we are. I'm just joking. So in 2014, on iOS in the United States, we were the 10th largest developer in terms of downloads. In 2015, we climbed up to 7th. In 2016, mind you, this is before Pokemon Go. When I measured this data, we were the fifth largest developer according to App Annie. So to frame the conversation, I think this is something I think about a lot when I'm thinking about monetization, and it's kind of like we think about a supply and demand, right, in basic economics, and the supply is us as game developers and us the developers with applications, the publishers, and we think about that kind of in terms of like smartphone users. So we look at smartphone penetration and user growth, and in the top right, what you're seeing is spend, mobile ad spend. And you can kind of see that's going up. And at the bottom left, you're seeing the multiple of mobile ad spend over growth. So you're kind of seeing that spend is growing a lot faster than actually than smartphone penetration and user growth. And in the bottom right, my favorite slide is mobile ad spend per user. So you're seeing this is going up and to the right. And what this means is that in our own applications, we're seeing CPMs go up naturally. And for advertisers, that means it's getting more expensive on an impression basis, which is it's good for us, especially at Ketchapp, since 95% of our revenue comes from advertising, and it makes it more interesting too when we're designing and developing our applications, especially for other developers that are thinking about incorporating ad monetization loops within their games. These are some terms that I think, I'm not going to go over all of them because we don't have a lot of time, but that we think about from an ad monetization perspective. Some of these are important to have an understanding of, such as impression. What does an impression mean? How is it measured? How do you have a normalized impression value? Things like adoption rate, which we'll go over later, that are kind of important for thinking about when you're designing product features within your application. And thinking about the behavioral economics within the game and how people respond to ads. So in order to scale, like with 6 people and manage we have over 70 applications on iOS and Android, and we need basically a way to aggregate demand, and we do that with mediation. And mediation is really, really good. We think it's good. It's a good thing to have. Because it allows us to basically aggregate all this demand and serve ads in our game and increase CPMs over time. So what is mediation? Mediation simply is a technology that it basically takes demand like an auction, and it decides which ad to serve based on what the predicted CPM value is. Today, it's not in real time because some of the reporting APIs are a little bit slow. It's interesting because new entrants are entering the market, but we think this technology is really going to improve this year over time. So this is one of the things that we rely on, one of the things that we really, really care about. So mediation's extremely important to think about. So scaling demand. So to talk about how do we scale with 6 people, a lot of the times we rely on our business partners, and then we also rely on kind of our philosophy, and then also we scale with product features and designing those things. So I'm going to talk about the business side of scaling, and then also a little bit about the product side of scaling. So in the business side, scaling demand. So I'm just going to give you a quick example of how we think about this. So this green supply curve, this represents, let's say, a Ketchapp game. So let's just say This is 2048, and we're looking at all the impressions for the banner ad units, and let's just say it's 1 billion impressions. And we're looking at the demand for those impressions, and the P line you see is the price, so that would be the price, the CPM value, and the D line is the aggregate demand value. In this situation, we're receiving some price for that demand. But let's say we somehow, in the same instance, we were able to increase the demand. We brought in a bunch of direct deals and integrated a couple of new demand partners to increase demand. And what that does is it shifts out the demand curve, and it creates more competition within our waterfall, increasing price, increasing the CPM, thus increasing the amount of revenue we get on a per impression basis for the company. So this idea of creating competition in our waterfall is extremely important to us. And there are some things that you can do to facilitate competition, to create more competition within the waterfall. There are also decisions that you can make that make your waterfall anti-competitive. And so I'll talk kind of about that in a little bit, but this is an important concept to have. And it's always important to think about how you're making your waterfall more competitive. So when we're evaluating business partners, the demand side is extremely important. It's one of the fundamental things we evaluate in a demand partner. The other side is the technology, and then also the business aspects. I'll touch on these really quickly. So on the business side, things that you want to care about, like what's your rev share? What percentage are you getting? Because that's directly reflective upon the CPM value that you get on a net basis, right? Are they open to guarantees, floors? We like floors. We don't like guarantees because typically what happens is when you work with a partner, they want you to guarantee a certain position in the waterfall, and that makes it anti-competitive, right? As soon as I give someone that first impression is no longer competitive because I'm giving it to somebody. So that's a business decision that you can make that can make your waterfall anti-competitive. We never ever give an impression to somebody. Sometimes we may put in floors, but giving someone an impression is anti-competitive, so we don't want to do that as shown in our example before. Do they offer buyouts? What does their team look like? On the business side too, it's really helpful if they have a large sales force because they can help you scale and sell your inventory to other advertisers. On the tech side, we like to test SDK before we sign. There's our server-side integration. Is a documentation up to date? Does it still have the old company name on it, or is it from this year? So all of these things that we care about. How quickly can we hit the reporting API? So then the other thing is we evaluate the demand partner's strength. And you can do this too by talking to your demand partners, asking them, what advertisers do they have on the channel? Do they have new advertisers coming in? How much are those advertisers spending? And the partners are obviously very open to talking about this stuff. So these are the three things that we think about when evaluating a demand partner. So let's jump a little bit more into the product side. So in our games, we offer 3 types of ad units: a banner unit, interstitial unit, and a rewarded video unit. Banner units are the industry's most unpopular ad unit, probably because they're not as performance, lower CPMs. But one of the things is for us, it's a significant portion of our revenue. So it's because it has high adoption. So because of this, it has a high revenue potential. So we care about banner units. And also, within a banner unit, you can kind of create a holistic marketing picture. Let's say you have an ad from Uber that's on the banner, and you can also have an interstitial ad and maybe a rewarded video ad that kind of gives them a holistic brand effect within one of our games, which is really interesting. Interstitial units, they can be intrusive if improperly integrated. They have medium CPMs, higher CPMs for videos and playables, higher adoption because it can be designed, and high revenue potential. And then my favorite ad unit, which is the rewarded video unit. This is not the industry's most, I would say this is the industry's most maybe popular unit now. Looks like this slide is not correct. Okay, so CPM Decay. So when designing product features, this is one of the charts that I'm constantly thinking about, and this happens in almost in every ad unit. So this chart is displaying some CPM value and an ad frequency. So for example, I see an ad the first time, it's going to be the highest CPM. And that same person sees an ad within the same day, a second time, the CPM starts to decay because the maybe conversion rate is decaying and it's becoming less performant, so the overall CPM value is decreasing over time. So as you get into higher frequency impressions, basically the CPM starts to flatten out. So we think about this a lot from a design perspective, and depending on what your strategy is, we may want to augment this curve or change this curve. The other relationship we think about is CPM and kind of the first impression value or the adoption rate. And the reason is because you have a lot of advertisers such as Machine Zone. They really care about that first impression, right? They want the first impression is usually the most performant. Even brands care about first impression. So there are product features that you can design that optimize this. Maybe you are just jumping into putting ads into your game and you don't want to go full throttle, and you might want to design an experience where a user only sees 1 or 2 ads per day. And you can kind of create a high value situation where you're earning a lot of revenue by optimizing the adoption rate and the CPM value that you're getting. So I'll talk about a couple of different product setups. The multi-ad format, this is something that Antoine and Michelle really pioneered, and this is using all 3 ad formats in a very thoughtful manner. So I'll give you an example in Stack, where we use a rewarded video and we allot this, we give the users currency for participating and watching a video. We show a banner unit during gameplay, and then we show an interstitial ad if the rewarded video was not activated. So we don't show the interstitial unless the user did not participate in the rewarded video. So, and this combines multiple ad formats and makes it simple and fun. At the same time, it's not very intrusive. We're not bombarding the user with ads. And because we're incorporating all 3 ad units, obviously we're utilizing more revenue per user using this setup. Another setup that I created at Dots for 2 Dots was a daily reward reroll. And essentially, this was the first version of it, and we iterated on it since. But the idea was when we created 2 Dots, we were just jumping into advertising in our game. And so we wanted to create something that optimized the adoption rate and the CPM rate with a low frequency. We didn't want a person in our game seeing 10 ads. We wanted them to see maybe 1 or 2. So we'd keep the highest CPM, we would serve the highest CPM ads. And so what we did was we created a daily reward, and that user could get another reward by watching an ad. This was the first version on it, and what we saw was it had a lower adoption rate. But as we changed the feature and we increased it to increase the adoption, we made it more interesting and compelling to the user and increased the adoption rate. And combining that with a higher CPM made a drastic increase to our ARPDAU, our ads ARPDAU, which thus increased LTV, which helped us acquiring more users. So thinking about these 2 relationships when designing product features obviously helps a lot. This is a product feature in this game called Doomsday Clicker by Pickpock, which I love, where it's a reroll. So this utilizes the frequency curve and allows you to watch a ton of ads at once. So the idea is that you have a currency multiplier and you watch a video, and let's say you get a 2x, you can watch another video to spin again and maybe get a 3x or a 4x. So this combines high frequency ad viewing with a higher CPM ad unit, which obviously can result in very high ads ARPDAU. And it looks like we're out of time, but I wanted to thank you very much. Thanks for having me, and have a great day.